Today is Saturday, July the 7th, 2018. Hello, and welcome to Weekly Astrology Notes for the week of July 8th through the 15th, 2018. Well, welcome back. Returning this week after a one-week break. And wow, we sure have a bunch of stuff happening this week. There's lots of aspects, including the new moon with a solar eclipse on Thursday. Well, starting with Sunday the 8th, we've got Sun trine Neptune. It's going to make it a lazy Sunday, a perfect aspect to relax at home. And then at the beginning of the work week on Monday, the mind is very active. But you'll need to pay attention to the details, as Mercury square Jupiter brings a lot of activity to Monday morning. And then on Tuesday, Jupiter goes direct, and we move forward with our plans for growth. It's a time of optimism. But we have a long void, of course, starting early Tuesday afternoon until late Wednesday morning. Moving into Wednesday, Venus trine Uranus. You know, Venus is going to be part of a grand trine that includes Saturn and Uranus this week. So on Wednesday, Venus trine Uranus has us interested in the unusual, more ambitious, and the evening is a good time for social gatherings, because it's the perfect time to make new friends. Moving into Thursday, we've got Sun opposition Pluto. Makes it an intense time, all the more significant because we have the new moon, along with the solar eclipse happening. So there's a lot to consider for this new moon that we are entering. It's going to be a time of endings. Emotional bonds are severed, and we come to a point of healing and letting go. A lot of changes potentially in the home as well. There could be a lot of social upheaval during this time, and my best advice is to not get caught up in other people's drama this week or this coming month, because this is happening right around the time of the new moon. Also happening on Thursday. On Friday, Venus completes that grand trine with a trine to Saturn in the evening, and that's going to kind of slow us down, focus on duty and responsibility. However, this whole Venus being part of a grand trine in Earth signs this week is giving us opportunities for material gain. So look for that this week. And then moving into the weekend, moon in Leo starting Friday through Sunday morning makes it a good time for romance and recreation, and basically mellow aspects throughout the weekend. At the end of the video, I'll go over transits for the USA. Just had their solar return on July the 4th. And this surprise Democratic socialist from the Bronx, New York, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm going to go over her chart and her transit. Okay, starting with Sunday the 8th. In the early morning, moon square Mercury, so unconscious impulses interfere with normal communication processes. Nerves get tense. You may need to slow down and relax the mind. But of course, it's in the middle of the night, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem for most of us. But then again, you know, these reports are read by people all over the planet, so this might be, you know, in the afternoon for folks in Australia. Anyhow, moving along, continuing with Sunday morning, moon opposition Jupiter. Emotions expand, and you want to share yourself with others. Desire attention. It's a good aspect for teaching, but it can get a bit overbearing. That Jupiter sometimes gets a bit too much, too pushy and rather stubborn about it in these signs. As well, poor financial judgment and a big appetite with those moon to Jupiter aspects. And then in the morning, Sun trine Neptune. So that will be 16 degrees of Cancer to 16 degrees of Pisces. Now Mercury and Venus recently in the same degrees of Cancer formed a grand trine with Jupiter and Neptune, as you see the Sun doing now. It's the trinity of the soul in water signs. And during this past week, during my week off, we had the Sun trine the Jupiter, and now we've got Sun trine Neptune. So these past few days have been rather special. They've been very soulful, a time of healing and reconciliation. We are more in touch with our deepest feelings and more able to share them with others. It's a time of breaking down psychological barriers between yourself and others. Again, this is all due to the grand trine in water. So we're more open, willing to share, compassionate. We've got unconditional love, even willingness to sacrifice for the sake of another. There's more trust and sincerity between people, so we can come to terms with long-standing issues that separate us from one another. Childhood issues, because it's in Cancer, and experience deep and lasting forgiveness. It's a time of endings, especially for things around the home. A time of people parting ways for the better. It brings up some melancholy feelings, but it's all for the better in the long run. You may feel a bit low on energy, low ego drive, can't really stand up for yourself, but very artistic and in need of peaceful surroundings. More connected to the non-material realm, so we're more open to the psychic influences of others, maybe more easily diverted, easily deceived. Even though it's a trine, it's still Neptune, it can do that. But the receptivity goes both ways, as others are more open to your influence as well. We're more in tune with the subtle vibrations around us. Impressions are worth more than literal meaning. So you might want to seek placid surroundings, a sanctuary, and you may well be of service of others today. You may be called to do that. Okay, moving on to the moon aspects. Still in the morning, we've got moon sextile Neptune. Goes very well with the sun trine Neptune. Feeling really sensual and sensitive. It's a good time for a massage, working with rock medicine, crystals, and healing stones. We're more open to nature spirits and fairies, the non-material realm. A very easygoing attitude. As well, the same with the next one, moon sextile sun. The last sextile before the new moon, always an easygoing time. Good time to be with friends, share your feelings and recuperate. Recollect your energy with an eye towards the next cycle. In these signs, Taurus to Cancer, it's a good time to be at home and insecure surroundings. And then in the afternoon on Sunday, we've got the moon trine Pluto. Emotions running high, lots of energy, looking to make improvements around the home, make a change for the better internally, heal psychological wounds, make a break from something that isn't working, refocus your energy towards material success. It's in earth signs. Okay, moving along to Monday the 9th. Not long after midnight, we've got the Mercury squared Jupiter, so I should say this will be in effect somewhat on Sunday evening as well. Brings up impulsive thinking, no patience. Kind of think while you're talking. You easily say the wrong thing. Blunt commentary, poor social judgment, poor financial judgment as well, looking to take the easy way out and avoid responsibility. It's a sudden rush to expand your immediate environment, get more information, increase contact with others, have more interactions. So some of that can come out kind of superficial because you just want more. And in a way, there's a hidden competitiveness about everyone's opinion. Everyone wants to share their opinion now, and it could lead to arguments. It's square from Leo to Scorpio. It's a fight between the forces of light, represented by Leo, and the forces of darkness, represented by Scorpio. So it's very fixed opinions that we defend tenaciously and bring up a lot of stubborn behavior. Also, bad driving habits. People not wanting to follow the rules, speeding, not looking where they're going. So be sure to drive defensively. Generally, it's just a lot of increased mental activity, lots of business activity, maybe extravagant purchases, but not paying attention to the details. Could lead to regrets if you're doing something really important. Nonetheless, good ideas can easily come during this time. The mind is really active, and you just have lots of ideas. You can connect the dots. You can see the long-range plan. But you kind of need to pause and listen, or in order to get that lucky tip that turns out to be beneficial. You don't want to overlook the details. It's a good time to expand your mind with new information because we're more optimistic. And generally, actually, I should say, it brings a positive attitude and a willingness to share good ideas with others, so long as you've got that mutual respect for everyone's opinion. Okay, moving along to the moon transits on Monday morning, we've got the moon square Venus, and this one causes some emotional isolation, hard to express yourself, not a good time for social gatherings, and then a short void, of course, until the moon enters Gemini. So we're more mercurial, mentally active for the next couple of days, able to do two things at once. Good time to catch up on missed connections. We're quick to speak. Moving from one thing to the next quickly leaves the moon wanting stability. So you may need to slow down and rely on your instincts. And then in the evening on Monday, Venus enters Virgo, where it will be until August the 6th. And Venus rules Libra, so in Virgo, it's the last step in the 12-step process that begins with Libra, so it's kind of in its death cycle here. And here the energy of Virgo causes the energy of Venus to dissolve. And it's in its detriment, where we're more critical of self and others, but we're more into hygiene, which can be a good thing, more concerned with a clean appearance. Good placement for a nurse or a doctor. Virgo is always very helpful. Relationships go through a period of work, so you have to apply yourself and work at them. They don't just come automatically. You might feel like your relationship is dissolving, and that's just the energy of Virgo causing you to, put more conscious attention to it. So it's a good idea to tend to all the little things, the details in your relationship. Assess what is working and what is not, and make the necessary adjustments. Use more discernment that Virgo gives you. And, Virgo rules the digestive system, so it also rules elimination, getting rid of the negative things that are not working. So the negative aspects of a relationship may come up now so that you can purge them from your system. In love, Venus in Virgo is either shy and undemonstrative, or the exact opposite, craves love and sex. And the really good thing about Venus in Virgo is some great aspects for Venus in Virgo. We got the Venus trine Uranus on the 11th, and Saturn this week, and then following week sextile Jupiter, and then opposition to Neptune, and then finally a trine to Pluto. So that's a lot of activities, lots of opportunities for material success, integrating your work with others and making a change for the better with all those trines. Important that you focus on your health regime during this time, and that's going to be a really good help with all these aspects. Get a lot of good ideas for restructuring and your health regime. So important to focus on that, eat properly, and maintain good personal hygiene. And then in the evening on Monday, late, we've got Moon trine Mars. That one's going to bring good mental clarity. Mars in Aquarius has got a sharp mind, and makes you sure of yourself and how your ideas fit in with the group. It's good for group activities as well as physical exercise. Moving into Tuesday, July the 10th, we've got Jupiter going stationary direct at 13 degrees 20 minutes of Scorpio. Continues direct until April the 10th of 2019, when it will be at 24 degrees of Sagittarius. Wow, that's more than one full sign of direct motion. We'll be in the shadow degrees until October the 7th, when it will reach 23 degrees. And I'm looking at the ephemeris, and from 23 degrees of Scorpio until 14 degrees of Sagittarius, Jupiter will be making just one pass, not the usual three this time around. So check your chart and note that the transits that Jupiter is making at those degrees, you're just going to get one pass. So as far as the direct motion goes, plans in the works during retrograde now move forward. New projects are started. Big announcements are made. We move ahead with our plans for growth. It's a time of optimism on the day that it goes direct. And what I really want to say about this, what's really important for me, is Jupiter in Scorpio. This is the end of it. We'll be there until November the 8th, okay? And I really can't emphasize enough, as Jupiter is now going full steam ahead through the last degrees of Scorpio, which for Jupiter is its death cycle, the 12th step in the 12-step process that begins with Sagittarius. So Jupiter's in its death cycle. It feels like Pisces. And there's a lot of important work to be done now. And these last few months are our last opportunity. We are all gaining whatever information now that we will need in the next cycle of growth. We're gaining more deep insight and psychological understanding. We're open to esoteric ideas, psychic and innate healing abilities. We're also interested in money and financial security, wanting to adopt the habits of successful people. So the transits that you get during this time, they're going to have some of this flavor, this quality to it. You know, after Saturn restructured the sign of Sagittarius for 2.5 years, ending in December of last year, followed by Jupiter being in the sign of Scorpio in its death cycle, I should say all things related to Sagittarius have been going through a process of restructuring and now transformation. On a geopolitical level, the mainstream media, all of those Jupiter-related things, like the press, professional sports, institution of higher learning like the university, relationships with foreigners, all of these things have gone through a tremendous upheaval for the last several years, really last 4 years or more now, or almost 4 years. And the next 4 months will see an ending to this difficult time, a bit of a change. The midterm elections here in the USA occurred just before Jupiter enters Sag, and for Americans, it's going to be a big event, one that marks the ending of an era of irrationality that we have seen related to all things Sagittarius for the last few years. The social justice warriors have one last summer before their movement begins to fall apart. Once Jupiter enters Sagittarius, it's going to bring about a much more righteous and judicious and mature behavior. Okay, when a sign enters when a planet enters its ruling sign, it behaves in a much more noble manner. So a lot of that kind of stuff is going to end. And this is just something to look forward to now as we see Jupiter going through the last 4 months of Scorpio. Okay, moving along to the moon transits for Tuesday. Still in the morning, we've got moon sextile Mercury. So Tuesday morning, communication flows easily. Good time for any type of business negotiations. And then in the early afternoon, moon square Neptune, trying to bring conscious awareness to things that are hidden or easily diluted. It can be a bit confusing as you're forced to think on more than one level. It's good to use your hands for some creative task, or like making music, something like that, something that doesn't have necessarily material value. Personally, I have found these aspects to be very productive as my mind is moving really quickly and I'm able to cope with different things at once. And then we've got a long void of course. It begins in the early afternoon on Tuesday, and it's going to continue for about 22 hours until the early morning on Wednesday. So relax on Tuesday evening, not starting any new projects. Moving along to Wednesday, July the 11th. Moon enters Cancer late in the morning, ending that long void of course. The moon begins a new cycle in Cancer, so we're more in need of home and security for the next couple of days. We're more sensitive. You might want to crawl into your shell. And We've got Moon sextile Venus in the early afternoon. Gives us a pleasant disposition. Good aspect for eating and digestion. We've got Cancer to Virgo sextile. Enjoy a pleasant meal with good conversation. As part of the Venus trine Uranus aspect exact this morning, this is a special hour. I'm thinking in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Pacific time, where the moon joins into this Venus trine Uranus aspect. Could be a very special hour, a very enlightening time of the day. It's excellent group harmony. We have this real intrinsic appreciation for others. The mind might give way to abstract thinking and could be very enlightening, very attracted to the unusual. So just make a note of that. With a moon sextile Uranus, feeling ambitious and with good intuition, able to overcome our insecurities and more psychic as well. I think we might have some really deep psychic impressions around this hour of the day on Wednesday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then later in the evening, Moon opposition Saturn. That kind of slows us down. Emotions contract, feeling hemmed in, overwhelmed by career and the outer world. It kind of slows down the digestion. Slow down and relax. Just take care of your body. Don't try to push yourself or do more than you feel comfortable doing. And you should have no problem speaking your mind with this next aspect, Venus trine Uranus, which will be 2 degrees of Virgo, 2 degrees of Taurus. With this one, we're attracted to the unusual, looking for something different to stimulate the mind. Disruptive, but for the better. Ambitious, and in earth signs, we're looking for opportunities for material gain. It also brings up a lot of abstract thinking, which leads to good ideas. It's a mentally stimulating aspect that's great for making new friends, warming up to people who are different than you, and finding a common bond. We see the intrinsic value in others, so it's good for teaching, sharing ideas. Could meet someone who has a very positive effect on your life, helps you make a positive change. It's a great aspect for a party, or better yet, go someplace you haven't been before. Seek new settings, new surroundings. Great aspect for relationships. Also, a desire to spend money and take risks with money. Existing relationships get some room to explore, and new relationships that start now have a strong need for freedom and independence for both partners. It's exciting, but may not last time. It's a great time for social gatherings. People really love to get together on this kind of earthy energy. And late this evening on Wednesday, you see Mercury, it's making a quincunx to Neptune. And then early on Monday the 16th, it's going to be making another quincunx to Pluto. So it's right now forming a yod configuration, which means there's a lot of stress on Mercury starting on Wednesday, basically through Monday. On a personal level, we feel compelled or moved by forces beyond our control. We're caught up in other people's opinions and subtly being asked to surrender our own thinking to somebody else. It's like we have to make a precise adjustment for the benefit of somebody else for our thinking. And this evening, Mercury quincunx Neptune kind of leaves us with a subtle dissatisfaction with our ability to communicate. So the best way to use this energy is to use your hands for some non-material endeavor, some creative endeavor. And that way, the surrendering that you do, it's for artistic purposes, and it helps you to develop your own divine connection. And that's what Pisces and Neptune does for you. So just put a little heads up there for what's going on with Mercury these days. On a geopolitical level, since Mercury is ruling politics, I'm looking at this configuration along with so many other aspects this week, and Jupiter going direct, and thinking, we're in for some major news this week. Possibly another big lie, because that's what happens a lot of times with these quincunxes. A lie is hoisted upon the masses. So that's just to give you a heads up of what's going on there. Moving along to Thursday, we've got the Sun opposition Pluto. This is pretty big because it's so close to the new moon. And it'll be 19, almost 20 degrees of Cancer to 19 degrees of Capricorn. So this aspect has us feeling a bit uneasy. It's almost as if any creative endeavor needs to be double-checked with some powerful authority. It makes us paranoid and makes us feel like we need to keep secrets. Makes us tempted to do something underhanded or resentful of what other people have, especially if they haven't gained it by legal means. It also brings up a lot of compulsion, desire to take the reins of power and wield it for yourself. But mostly, I think it makes us sullen, quiet, keeping inside your well-protected shell, Cancer shell, but ready to strike at anyone who intrudes. It can bring up very defensive behavior, overly protective of the home, isolationist tendencies. It kind of makes you want to prepare for the apocalypse. You know, all those preppers, they have aspects like Moon opposition Pluto, or Moon square Pluto, and of course this is from Cancer, ruled by the Moon. So that's where that energy kind of comes in when you mix up that Cancer energy with Pluto. We're concerned with survival issues. You may want to hoard what you have, but really you should take the opposite approach and get a better understanding of Pluto. Understand that all that you have, comes from this communal well of resources that we all draw from. And eventually, it's all going to go back. It's all going to return to that same place. So kind of put it in perspective that way. Helps you to understand the Pluto energy. And in the meantime, it's up to you to utilize what you have in a way that keeps you sustained, but does not deny the same opportunities for others. And that's really the correct use of the Pluto energy. And particularly with this aspect, because we really feel this need to draw from the well of communal resources. Like, we want our fair share, we want our due, and it brings up a lot of issues, lack, or why don't I have what I have? And it all comes down to utilizing what you have to the best possible way, because it's in Capricorn. So with this one, you feel like you're getting turned inside out. Sun opposition Pluto in Capricorn. Turned inside out by forces beyond your control. So it's really hard to find balance with this opposition. An intense need to regenerate or renovate around the home. So it might stir you to lots of sudden activity in your home. Pluto aspects always bring a sudden burst of energy. As well, it could bring up issues within the home, especially money issues, and tensions could flare. Even psychological issues and insecurities come up. Although I think that because of these signs, folks are more apt to be kind of quiet and just really defensive and not want to talk about it. Really hide their feelings a lot. But if you use this aspect properly, it really helps you get a lot of work done. Get a lot accomplished. So work on a task until it's complete and use that Pluto energy that way. Understand that we're coming to a point of culmination, as all oppositions do. So it could produce breakups, as Pluto has a way of severing bonds. But consider that this aspect could also bring you great resolve and great success. If you are due for some reward, then this aspect might bring that. Kind of depends on your karma. It could bring a sudden change in your circumstances for the better. Events today will seem to have a karmic feel to them. Events unfold according to your past behavior. It could be bad or it could be really good. We all feel connected to powerful higher forces today, and how you meet this energy says much about your psychological state. So you really want to try to maintain your balance and your calm, and overcome your insecurities if they rise. Because because they will come up, and you'll see in your response if you're insecure or if you've got really good self-esteem or and can keep it contained. and are able to consider the rights of others. It's always good to watch yourself and premeditate, like a criminal, because Pluto rules criminal behavior. So you want to kind of think like a criminal. Premeditate on what you're doing during the Pluto aspects. It will teach you a lot about yourself. And understand that this is in effect basically all throughout the next month because it coincides with the new moon. So more about that ahead. Okay, we've got a few other moon aspects to consider here on Thursday. In the morning, we've got moon trine Jupiter and moon trine Neptune. So the moon will be caught up in this grand trine in water signs. Very wonderful. Going to bring positive attitude, very humorous. Good time for social gatherings, as well as give us a big appetite. We're very sensitive and compassionate, more psychic. Want to exchange feelings and emotions with others. We're more intuitive. Impressions mean a whole lot more than words. And that'll be in the early afternoon as well. And then later in the evening, we've got the moon opposition Pluto. Emotions are stifled. Energy is repressed. Folks are sullen and moody, easily offended, obsessed with powerful emotions, sex and jealousy. Secrets are revealed. That's why you want to really avoid any drama or emotional entanglements during these kind of aspects. And of course, it has this very strong effect on the new moon. So this is part of the new moon description here. When I say over the course of the month ahead, it's going to be hard to find balance with Pluto and its relentless energy pulling you off center, forcing you to recollect yourself on a regular basis. You need to do that through some strength and restorative therapy like yoga, tai chi. Martial arts is really good. And of course, meditation. Things that activate your innate healing abilities. Consciously embrace the Pluto energy of transformation and bring it into your life. You may need to stand up for your individuality and your way of life. Demand respect for your being, and not go along with the crowd. Not be forced to think for yourself in order to maintain your standards and what's important for your survival, your career, and your reputation. So this month, more than ever, it's important to avoid getting caught up in other people's drama and emotional entanglements. People are tempted to do whatever is necessary, even use underhanded means to accomplish their goals. So that's why I put out that warning. This month, you may need to break free and go your own way, blaze a new path in life. And it could be something really good. Something actually is really corresponding for me in my life in synchronicity with these aspects. So it doesn't necessarily need to be bad. On a social level, this could bring up a lot of disruptions and upheaval. Volcanoes may go off, figuratively speaking, and maybe even literally, with the recent uptick in volcanic activity due to the changes in the sun. We apparently are in the solar minimum now. And of course, there's Nibiru coming through the solar system. So there's a lot of that going on. People are seeking a group experience with this aspect in this month. They really want to be part of the collective and see their value within the whole. Not always necessarily for the right reasons. Okay? A lot of it can be disruptive. People just wanting to bring chaos and stamping on other people's rights. But at the same time, we are all going to feel that need to merge. Pluto gives us that desire to merge with the collective. And now we come to the new moon happening in the evening, and it'll be at 20 degrees 41 minutes of Cancer. And there's also going to be a solar eclipse, which will be visible only in the far south, in southern Australia and New Zealand. Now, with Pluto strongly influencing this month's new moon, there's a lot of upheaval in the home this month and in society. Cultural divides are activated. Could produce a lot of fighting amongst different factions within a group or groups within a society. In your home, you are coming to a point of culmination. So I'm kind of bringing this back down to what's going us personally and emotionally right now, because we're going to be kind of crawling into a shell this month. You know, all of this in Cancer, crawling into our shell. So what's going on here is in your home, we're coming to a point of culmination. It may be that the situation changes by forces beyond your control, and there's nothing you can do about it except go along with it. Hopefully, it's for the better in your case, as it is with me. But nonetheless, it's very disruptive. It's a month to renovate and renew around your home, when we should all have lots of energy for projects in the home. So take care to fix anything that's broken, okay? Whether it's a broken door, a broken window, broken doorknob, whatever it is, take care of it this month. And of course, the new moon in Cancer already makes it a month to focus on the home, a time when how you live your life is more important than what you do for a living. So it's not success-oriented at all. It's more quality of life-oriented. We tend to pull away from the outer world at this time, normally a placid time, you know, when we seek security. But the Pluto opposition brings a big burst of disruptive energy that could smash all of that tranquility. And or, you know, it could do both, or it could be bring an opportunity to renew your home environment in the way that you always dreamed of, the way that you always wanted to but weren't able to. But sudden changes make that possible. So disruptions, some may seem bad, but ultimately they are all for the better in the long run. And note, at the time of this new moon, we've got this grand trine involving Jupiter and Neptune in effect. And this too tells me it's a time of endings in water signs. It's healing and resolution, sharing of sincere feelings. You know, now that it's all over, we can come to terms with it and kind of let it go and get closure, that kind of a thing. Allow your feelings to be known to the greater world, and all of that really enables you to let go of them. And you release a burden in your life. So there's lots of compassion and understanding to help us through this strong Pluto energy. And lastly, note that the Venus is also part of another grand trine involving Saturn and Uranus in Earth signs. Wonderful. And it's very close at the new moon. So all that stuff I've been talking about opportunities for material success, well, that's also in effect all this month at the new moon. Two grand trines. And of course, there's this Mercury as part of a yod, as you can see here, involving Pluto and Neptune. And that is going to be creating a lot of disappointment with politicians, and maybe feeling like the burden of life requires you to do too much, and you have to sacrifice your opinions and your thinking process for other people. So it's going to be important to make precise adjustments in your thinking in order to avoid being swept up by other people's karma this month. You know, all these powerful configurations all happening right on the new moon. Very interesting. And then the new moon aspect starts a void of course, and that continues until tomorrow morning. Moving along to Friday, which will be the 13th, and I'm not superstitious, so I don't put any particularly important attention on that. This is just astrology. So the void of course ends when the moon enters Leo on Friday morning. So we're more creative and romantic for the next couple of days as we move into the weekend. The moon in Leo is a good time to focus on your hobbies and spend time with your children, all of which are ruled by Leo. It's also a good time for romance and recreation. And then in the early afternoon, moon square Uranus. Uranus creates disruptions and pulls you away from what's comfortable so you can find the ambition to change part of yourself and see things differently. We're more aware of what we're not getting at this time, so that's why it brings up a little bit of tension and people are a bit uneasy. As well, the moon is caught up in the ongoing Mars square Uranus, because I want to point that out again. This aspect, Mars in Aquarius squaring Uranus in Taurus, is going on for several months, and the moon gets caught up in it once in a while. And when it does, it kind of brings out the energy of that aspect. Folks are really headstrong, fixed in their ways, hard to make adjustments. You want to beware of overly aggressive behavior. Mars retrograde especially requires that we think before we act, especially if there's a potential for violence. And the moon in Leo, opposition Mars in Aquarius, a time of delicate health and volatile emotions. We're impulsive. People put on ego displays, so be mindful of aggressive actions while Mars is retrograde. But maybe it won't be too bad, because we've got this calming Venus trine Saturn aspect happening late Friday evening. And this will be 4 degrees of Virgo to 4 degrees of Capricorn. So the fastidious side of Venus in Virgo gets a boost from this aspect, because Saturn is kind of fastidious as well. And efficient, and Virgo really likes that. So we feel conservative, self-disciplined, willing to work hard in the present moment in the hopes of future gain, not interested in anything frivolous or fleeting. So you're interested in long-term commitment and shows lots of maturity and loyalty, able to win the favor of persons in authority. Time to attend to your health regime. Find ways to improve your digestion. Clean up your personal space. Positive changes made now will last a long time. So you really want to take advantage of this grand trine. As soon as Venus enters Virgo, we're getting this excellent opportunity to make some changes to our health regime in life. So use that to your advantage. As well, opportunities for material gain. And both of these aspects, the trine to Uranus and Saturn, enable you to make a good impression on people who could assist you in some way. It really depends on your ability to handle the details, all the Virgo stuff. You know, display good judgment, be orderly and methodical. If you can do all that, you might really get a good opportunity with this one coming up. Check your chart to see where it lands and what concurrent transits you might be getting. And then on Saturday, the 14th, we start in the morning with Moon square Jupiter. Kind of gives you a desire to expand. Can be a bit pushy, loud. Jupiter does that. Extravagant and glorified natural judgment, along with the usual big appetite. And then in the afternoon on Saturday, Moon conjunct Mercury in Leo. Mind and emotions in harmony. Good time for healing the mind-body connection. You know, because the Moon rules the subconscious mind, and Mercury rules the conscious mind. And when the two of them together, you know, the mind really works better. And it helps clear out the blocks between the mind and the body, and healing that mind-body connection. As well, communication flows smoothly. We're more in touch with our instincts and our intuition, and it's a good time for business. And then we've got a void of course that begins Saturday afternoon, and that continues until late Sunday morning when the moon enters Virgo. So we're more fastidious and focused on the details for the next couple of days. The moon is active in Virgo, where it likes to get a lot of work done and looks to get ahead, as well as very helpful towards others. Very good time for planets in Virgo these days, with the grand trine to Saturn and Uranus, keeping us steady on the earthly plane. So we've got both of those aspects happening on Sunday afternoon. The trine to Uranus is the first one, so we're looking for opportunities to get ahead and ways to work with others, kind of merge our efforts, our work with others. And the trine from Taurus to Virgo is characterized as skillful use of personal resources. As well, I think that also applies to the next aspect, the moon trine Saturn. And this aspect keeps things practical and orderly, very methodical and productive. And then the last aspect, Moon conjunct Venus in Virgo. Time to relax, brings pleasant moods. It's a nice aspect to end the week, to bring pleasant conversation. And that's all this week for the aspects. And moving on to a couple of stories for this week. We had the USA had its solar return on July the 4th last week. So I thought I'd go over the transits for the USA on its birthday, because the transits on your birthday are indicative of the year that you're going to have. So here we've got the USA, and July 4th, you'll see the sun is in the exact same position at 12 degrees, 44 minutes of Cancer. And the first transit that I noticed was Mars, currently at 8 degrees of Aquarius and retrograde, is trining the ascendant and Uranus, both at 8 degrees of Gemini. Well, this is really good. Makes you inspired, energetic, rather athletic as well. Mars in the 9th house makes a good athlete. Optimistic, lots of self-confidence, a desire to expand your range of activities. Lots of energy to break free from the past and start anew. The courage to overcome inhibitions. But Mars is retrograde, so you always have to worry about those aggressive actions have a way of coming back at you. I'll talk a little bit more about that later when I talk about the nodes. But I also wanted to point out the Saturn opposition Jupiter. Saturn currently at 5 degrees of Capricorn, opposing Jupiter at 5 degrees of Cancer. So that's pretty close, right on the birthday of the U.S. It's a time of realistic goals, cutting back, limited expansion, finding your mistakes and correcting them, overcoming obstacles from those who oppose you. This is a time of measured, methodical growth. But what's really good about it is that it puts you back on the path, or a realistic path, if you have strayed away from that. So it's always a good transit in the long run. And I'm thinking that because Jupiter rules, the press, professional sports, universities, all these things that are bastions of liberal politics, they're going to continue to feel frustrated, because this Saturn opposition Jupiter is going to put a wet blanket on them. They're going to continue to feel stymied by authority figures and by the new paradigm of Saturn in Capricorn, which is much more structured and traditional. And they're just going to be more frustrated by that for the next year. And I think that the U.S. in general is going to be a little bit frustrated militarily over the course of the next year, because you'll see Mars conjuncting the South Node. The U.S. has to worry about rehashing old wounds and needs to move beyond the old comfortable ways of the South Node, kind of part ways with them. And the Mars retrograde is going to be something that says, look, any aggressive actions that you do, they're going to come back at you. So it looks like the U.S. is not going to be able to conduct aggressive military actions this year, not like in the past, as it's done. But there are some really good transits related to the nodes. First of all, you've got Mercury, you'll see here, at 7 degrees of Leo. I know it's not close as it's shown here, but it is on the conjunction. Right on top of 7 degrees Leo, the North Node. Well, that's really good. A rather positive transit that encourages you to speak your truth and follow your destiny. Because, of course, the South Node is the old comfortable ways that you should be moving away from, and the North Node is the destiny you were meant to fulfill in this life. So with Mercury conjuncting the North Node, you're able to speak your truth about your destiny. And that sounds really good for the planet that rules politics, so we could fulfill our political destiny. And as you'll see, the nodes have made their nodal return. The North Node and South Node are in the same place as they were when the U.S. started, 7 degrees Aquarius and 7 degrees of Leo, respectively. So that's another good transit that encourages you to follow your destiny, reconnect with your path. So I would say that's rather lucky for the USA. In general, these two last transits to the nodes indicate that the USA is getting back on its true path this year. It's just not going to be able to do any aggressive military actions like it has in the past. And this Saturn opposition Jupiter, I think overall it's pretty good. It's going to correct a lot of the overexpansive ways, the imbalanced Jupiter activities that the U.S. has conducted in the past. It's bringing a lot more sanity to politics. It's going to continue to do that for a whole another year. Okay, moving along to this lady, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. If you have not heard about her, I would encourage you to look her up. I'll leave a couple of links. She is the surprise winner of the Democratic primary for Congress in the Bronx, New York. And that was held on June the 26th. It was quite a surprise because she beat a guy who was basically the heir apparent to Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. So he was a very powerful Democrat, and he's been knocked out of the race in the primary by this lady that nobody knew about. So she's made quite a splash. So I thought I would take a look at her chart and her transits. Well, I don't have her exact birth time, but she was born October the 13th, 1989. So she's got Sun in Libra. You see here 20 degrees of Libra. And wow, would you take a look at this chart? Look at that grand cross. Okay, you got 4 planets all making squares to one another, and then of course the oppositions as well. So she was born at a time during this grand conjunction of these outer planets in Capricorn, which coincided with, politically, with the fall of the Berlin Wall, the Tiananmen Square incident in China, and it was just really a tumultuous time where there was a lot of changes in the world politically. So here we now have someone who was born at that time, and she's very young. She's really like, I think she's going to be the youngest woman to ever be elected to Congress. So it's interesting to see these people now already making their mark on the world, because you can see here with all these planets in Capricorn, they kind of want to start at the top. They see themselves as successful already. And with all of these squares, I mean, she's quite a formidable person. So she's formidable, strong, domineering, aggressive, a real leader, and willing to work hard. And she doesn't have too many trines. Not much comes easy for her, except you'll notice she's got this wonderful Jupiter trine Pluto. So she's definitely able to get the assistance from people in power. And I think that that's exactly what she's done. Now, you'll notice this grand conjunction here is opposed by Jupiter. So for her, she's always wanting to expand that element of her chart. At the same time, she's always got a need to be in a relationship with it. She stands, in a way, as you can see, naturally opposed to that. Her perspective is going to be naturally opposed to that, but she's going to always feel a need to incorporate that into her identity. So this Jupiter opposition, all of these planets in Capricorn, is what gives her this tremendous desire to achieve. And the Mercury in Libra, really well done, because it's got, not only is it in Libra, which is ruled by Venus, but it sextiles the planet of Venus. You'll see here at 5 degrees of Sagittarius. So she's got a lot of this Venus energy on her Mercury, which rules politics, as well in opposition to the Moon, which puts even more feminine energy on her voice. So first of all, she's going to be very diplomatic, eloquent, and with the opposition to the Moon, she really knows how to talk to women, and she knows how to get them motivated, knows how to feel a crowd. She's very intuitive, and she can feel out a crowd and tailor what she says perfectly. Libra does this. You know, it's the not self. It says what you want to hear. And so she can tailor what she says perfectly to gain approval. And the whole Grand Cross feeds into her politics, ruled by Mercury, which, despite her rhetoric, is really about who she sees herself. That's really going to be the main issue with her, is how she sees herself as being this very powerful, formidable being who has something very powerful to say, and it has a really strong character. And I think that this Jupiter opposition, these 3 planets in Capricorn, is what gives her a lot of these socialist tendencies. She bills herself as a democratic socialist. Very expansive, idealistic, utopian ideals for society. But it's very hard to balance these oppositions, as she's constantly at odds with the prevailing societal structure. So this Jupiter opposition makes her somewhat of a rebel, because it puts her in opposition to the basic structure of society. She always wants to change it, expand it, make it better. It's not a Uranus opposition of wanting to change it or rebellious. It's more of wanting to expand it and make it better and more inclusive. Jupiter, it rules religion, and it wants to hold the doors of the church wide open so that everybody can come in. And that's really where a lot of her socialist politics comes from, but it's very unrealistic. It's kind of out of balance. It always needs to be constantly put back into balance. Now for her, because she's got the other set of oppositions here, it helps put a lot of structure into that. Okay, so she is able to balance that out with her political activities. So that's what's going to make her a real force to reckon with. But you'll notice that her Mercury squares the Jupiter and squares Neptune. In particular, I'm pointing those out because I think that there's going to be a lot of facts about her. Mercury is the rational mind. It rules all the little facts, the little points of focus. And all of those, with the square to Jupiter and Neptune as well, the facts about her are hidden or embellished to make them look bigger. For example, the fact that she was only born in the Bronx, but really bills herself as someone who, she sounds like she's been living there her whole life. But the truth is, she moved away when she was a very young girl to a much nicer town in Westchester County, and was raised in a rather posh neighborhood. And then she moved back to the Bronx and began being politically active right away. It's like she had a plan. She knew exactly what she was going to do, and she put herself back into the Bronx to give herself that street creed, that value that says, oh yeah, I come from the Bronx. But really, I think this woman has secret backing of an organized political machine that is using her to forward her agenda. And it kind of shows in her chart with this Mercury squared Jupiter and Neptune. And just going over her transits at the time that she won this election on June the 26th, you'll notice that Jupiter is very close at 13 degrees of Scorpio to her natal Pluto at 14 degrees of Scorpio. And she's already got that natal trine to Jupiter working in her favor. So certainly this has helped her out even more. And this tells me that she's getting a lot of support from other people. She's able to draw from the collective communal well of support. And no doubt it's helped her gain the support of others, really brought her a lot more power and given her a lot of luck. She's really connected to that Pluto energy. So definitely she's got some secret financial backing, it sounds to me like. She becomes the embodiment of what people are looking for while Jupiter is in the sign of Scorpio. That hidden piece to the puzzle, that missing piece that everyone's been looking for, that they think is going to help them in the next cycle. So this tells me that she's already starting to take on the mantle of someone who is going to be very active in the future. She's being set up for that. Really interesting to see that on the day she got this big win, she had Pluto square the Sun. You'll see here Pluto was at 20 degrees of Capricorn squaring her sun at 20 degrees of Libra. Well, it's not the correct birth time, so it could be off by a little bit more than this, because right here it's like almost exact. But I think that this definitely was close and certainly was a factor in winning. You know, don't let anyone ever let you think that Pluto squares are bad. They can often be excellent transits. You know, when I got Pluto square Pluto in my late 30s, as everyone does, it was an excellent transit for me. And they can be really great because they're a time when you muster all of the resources at your disposal and make a total commitment, and that produces a profound change for the better in your life. And it can also mean the power of the collective is focused on you. So with this Pluto square the Sun happening along the time as Jupiter square Pluto, you know, that's a lot of Pluto energy, a lot of hidden energy that is coming to bear in her chart at this time. As well, you can see Uranus, trine Uranus. Got a lot of transits here. Look at this. 1 degree of Taurus to 1 degree of Capricorn. Very close. So that is another one that says, you know, she's an embodiment of a movement, of something that's going on in the collective. In this case, the Uranus in Taurus era. It really sits well with her. It's making good aspects to her chart, and she's going to be someone who embodies this Uranus in Taurus energy as we move forward over the next few years. You see, she's going to get trines to Saturn and Neptune as well. So that should be really interesting, as well as the sextile to Jupiter. So she's really set to be someone who embodies this energy. And I think that she's really someone who's kind of been put in place by the democratic machine, or a hidden element of it, in order to propel her to great heights. Someone like Obama. All in all, I find her win to be very significant because she's the first of her generation who has this grand conjunction in Capricorn to achieve any sort of great significance in politics. These people are mature beyond their age. They come into this world already set to go. I've got a nephew with the same conjunction in his chart. He's the same way. She's set to be the youngest female ever elected to Congress. I predict many more people with this grand conjunction will begin to emerge, and like her, want to start at the top and make big changes. You know, they're not going to all be socialists like her, but they certainly will be formidable like her. She's definitely someone to watch. Okay, so that's it for this week. I ran on a little bit longer than usual because we had so many aspects this week. You can check out my website, tomsocalm.com, or follow me on Twitter at TomJordan364. Please contact me if you're interested in a natal or transit reading. And I'm also a Reiki master, and contact me if you're interested in a long-distance Reiki healing or a psychic reading. So, that's all this week for Weekly Astrology Notes. Once again, thanks for viewing, liking, and sharing my video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Many blessings, and have a great day.